The birth of a prince, Siddhartha Gautama, the future Buddha, was born into a life of privilege and luxury. His father, King Suddhodana, ruled over the Shakya clan in Lumbini, located in present-day Nepal. His mother, Queen Maya, was renowned for her beauty and grace. Legend has it that Queen Maya dreamt of a white elephant entering her womb on the night of Siddhartha's conception. This was seen as an auspicious sign foretelling the birth of a great being. Siddhartha's birth was a joyous occasion. The kingdom celebrated the arrival of their prince. Astrologers predicted a bright future for the newborn. They saw signs of greatness in him. Some even prophesied that he would become either a powerful king or a revered spiritual leader. King Suddhodana, eager for his son to inherit the throne, ensured Siddhartha lived a life shielded from suffering. The young prince grew up surrounded by opulent palaces, beautiful gardens, and devoted servants. He received the finest education and mastered various arts and skills. However, the king's efforts to protect his son from the realities of life would soon be challenged. A prophecy foretold. Concerned by the prophecy that his son might renounce his royal destiny, King Suddhodana sought to steer Siddhartha towards a life of power. He surrounded the prince with every imaginable pleasure and distraction. The king hoped to bind his son to the material world and its allurements. Despite his father's efforts, a sense of unease lingered in Siddhartha's heart. He possessed a naturally contemplative nature. The young prince found himself questioning the meaning of life and the true nature of happiness. The lavishness that surrounded him felt superficial. It did little to quell the deeper yearnings within him. One day, the king arranged a grand festival outside the palace walls. Siddhartha, eager to experience the world beyond his sheltered life, convinced his charioteer to take him through the city streets. It was during this fateful outing that he encountered the 4 sights that would forever alter the course of his life. The 4 sights, a glimpse of reality. Venturing beyond the palace walls for the first time, Siddhartha encountered suffering for the first time. First, he saw an old man, his body ravaged by time, struggling to walk. Then, he came across a sick person, racked with pain and disease. These sights filled him with a profound sense of unease. They revealed the harsh realities of life he had never witnessed before. As the chariot rolled on, they encountered a funeral procession. The sight of the lifeless body and the grief of the mourners shook Siddhartha to his core. It brought home the inevitability of death. He realized that all beings, regardless of their status or wealth, were subject to old age, sickness, and death. Finally, Siddhartha saw a wandering ascetic, his face radiating serenity and peace. The ascetic had renounced worldly possessions and desires to seek spiritual liberation. This encounter sparked a glimmer of hope within Siddhartha. It suggested a path beyond suffering, a path leading to true and lasting happiness. Renunciation, leaving the palace behind. The 4 sights deeply troubled Siddhartha. He was overwhelmed by the realization that suffering was an inherent part of life. The pleasures and luxuries of his palace no longer held any appeal. He yearned to find a way to overcome the inevitability of suffering. One night, Siddhartha made the momentous decision to leave his old life behind. He renounced his princely title, his wealth, and his family. He slipped out of the palace and into the darkness, determined to find a way to end suffering. This act of renunciation marked the beginning of his spiritual quest. He embraced the life of a wandering ascetic, seeking guidance from various teachers and exploring different spiritual practices. The path of austerity and the middle way. Siddhartha spent years practicing extreme asceticism. He believed that by punishing his body and denying his desires, he could extinguish the ego and attain enlightenment. He engaged in severe fasting, intense meditation, and rigorous physical disciplines. His commitment was unwavering, pushing himself to the very edge of human endurance. Despite his unwavering efforts, enlightenment remained elusive. He realized that extreme asceticism was just another form of attachment, hindering his spiritual progress. He recognized the need for a balanced approach, one that avoided the extremes of self-indulgence and self-mortification. This realization led him to the concept of the middle way. Enlightenment under the Bodhi tree. Abandoning the path of extreme asceticism, Siddhartha turned his attention inwards. He sat beneath a sacred fig tree, now known as the Bodhi tree, determined to meditate until he reached enlightenment. He faced temptations and challenges during his meditation, but his resolve remained unshaken. As Siddhartha sat in deep meditation, he gained profound insights into the nature of reality, suffering, and the path to liberation. He realized that attachment to desire was the root cause of suffering. By eliminating these attachments, one could achieve true happiness and liberation. After 49 days of continuous meditation, at the age of 35, he attained enlightenment and became known as the Buddha, the Awakened One. The Four Noble Truths, the heart of Buddha's teachings. Upon attaining enlightenment, Buddha decided to share his wisdom with the world. He traveled extensively throughout India for over 4 decades, teaching the principles he had discovered. The core of his teachings is encapsulated in the Four Noble Truths, which provide a framework for understanding and overcoming suffering. The truth of suffering, dukkha. Life inevitably involves suffering. From birth, aging, sickness, and death to the pain of unmet desires and the frustration of our impermanent existence, suffering is a universal experience. The truth of the cause of suffering, samudaya. Suffering arises from attachment, craving, and ignorance. Our desires for sensory pleasures, our clinging to self-identity, and our lack of understanding of the true nature of reality fuel the cycle of suffering. The truth of the cessation of suffering, nirvana. Suffering can be overcome by eliminating attachment, craving, and ignorance. By uprooting the causes of suffering, we can achieve liberation from the cycle of birth, death, and rebirth. The truth of the path to the cessation of suffering, magga. The path to the cessation of suffering is the Noble Eightfold Path, a practical guide to cultivating wisdom, ethical conduct, and mental discipline. The Noble Eightfold Path, a guide to liberation. The Noble Eightfold Path is not a linear progression of steps, but an interconnected set of principles that work together to cultivate a life of wisdom, compassion, and liberation. By practicing these 8 aspects of the path, individuals can gradually purify their minds, develop wholesome qualities, and ultimately reach enlightenment. Right understanding. Developing a correct understanding of the Four Noble Truths and the nature of reality. Right thought. Cultivating thoughts of loving kindness, compassion, and non-attachment. Right speech, speaking truthfully, kindly, and avoiding harmful speech. Right action, acting ethically, abstaining from harming others and engaging in positive actions. Right livelihood, earning a living in a way that does not harm others or violate ethical principles. Right effort, cultivating wholesome qualities and abandoning unwholesome ones, making a conscious effort to purify the mind. Right mindfulness, paying attention to the present moment without judgment, developing awareness of thoughts, feelings, and sensations. Right concentration, developing focused attention and cultivating states of deep meditation. Sharing the Dharma, the formation of the Sangha. After attaining enlightenment, Buddha traveled extensively, sharing his teachings with people from all walks of life. He emphasized that his teachings were not meant to be blindly accepted, but to be investigated, practiced, and experienced firsthand. He encouraged his followers to test his words against their own understanding and experience. As more and more people embraced his teachings, the Sangha, the community of Buddhist monks and nuns, was established. The Sangha played a crucial role in preserving and transmitting the Buddha's teachings. It provided a supportive environment for individuals to practice the Dharma and progress on the path to enlightenment. Parinirvana, the final teaching. At the age of 80, after a lifetime of teaching and guiding others, the Buddha passed away in Kushinagar, India. This event is known as Parinirvana, which signifies the complete cessation of all attachments and the final liberation from the cycle of birth and death. Even in his final moments, the Buddha continued to teach. He reminded his disciples that all compounded things are impermanent and that they should strive diligently on the path to liberation. He emphasized that the Dharma, his teachings, would be their guide after his passing. The enduring legacy of the Buddha. Over 2,500 years after his death, the Buddha's teachings continue to inspire millions of people worldwide. His message of compassion, wisdom, and liberation from suffering transcends cultural and religious boundaries. Buddhism has evolved into various traditions and practices, but its core principles remain rooted in the Buddha's teachings. The Buddha's legacy is a testament to the transformative power of his teachings. His life and message offer a timeless path to inner peace, ethical conduct, and spiritual awakening. In a world often consumed by materialism and conflict, the Buddha's teachings provide a beacon of hope, reminding us of the inherent potential for compassion, wisdom, and liberation that exists within each of us.